This is the Mazda CX-30, an all-new compact crossover that costs 99,900 dirhams in the UAE and competes with cars such as the Honda HR-V, Kia Seltos, Toyota CHR, and possibly even the Volvo XC40, all of which we have reviewed and you can watch by clicking in the top right corner. Since we are the first people in the country to drive this very special car, let us not waste any more time and get right to the review. Now I know what some of you may be thinking. What is the CX-30 and where exactly does it fit into the brand's lineup? Essentially, it fits between the smaller CX-3 and the larger CX-5. And I know what you're thinking. If it fits between the CX-3 and the CX-5, then why didn't Mazda just call it the CX-4? That is a very good question, and they most certainly should have called it the CX-4. But sadly, that is a name that's reserved for a model exclusively sold in China. And so they had to go with the second best option, which, as we know now, was the CX-30. From the outside and to drive, the CX-30 definitely looks and feels more like a hatchback than an SUV. You don't sit very high up, but it still feels very nice to drive, like all other Mazdas really. And that is down to things like the positioning of the pedals, the weight and accuracy of the steering, and the tuning of the suspension. While many other manufacturers have started opting for turbocharged engines to meet emission and efficiency standards, Mazda hasn't jumped onto the bandwagon, and so the CX-30 produces 153 horsepower, 200 Newton meters of torque, and can return up to 16.1 kilometers per litre, all of which are pretty impressive numbers for a 2-litre engine. Although it is missing driving aids such as adaptive cruise control and lane keeping assist, since this is the mid-option model, it does get blind spot monitoring to help you change lanes safely, adaptive headlights that move with the direction of the steering, and auto leveling headlights that make sure your lights are always pointed down towards the road, even if the car is loaded with occupants or cargo and looks a little bit like this from the outside. When it comes to the design and quality, believe me when I say that no one does interiors like Mazda at this price point. It is extremely well built and the quality of materials is simply amazing. There's lots of leather, two-tone in this case, and soft touch materials. Very simply said, it both looks and feels a lot more expensive than it really is. In the back, there's not much more space than you'd expect to find in a hatchback, and the sloping roof that looks great from the outside does eat into the headroom. There are AC vents and 2 cup holders in the center armrest, but sadly there's no charging outlets, something that a lot of its rivals do tend to offer. In terms of comfort features, the CX-30 offers a fair bit, with its most notable contributions being a tilt and telescopic steering column with plenty of adjustment, a dual-zone climate control system, and heads-up display, a system that projects speed, cruise control, and blind spot information onto the windscreen so that you never need to take your eyes off the road. Helping to keep the design as minimal as possible is an 8.8-inch infotainment screen that acts as the command center and is controlled from these shortcut buttons and rotary dial along the center console. There's Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, a brilliant rear view camera, and sensors in the front and back to make the worst of us look like parking champions. Finally, there's also rear cross-traffic alert, a system that helps you when reversing out of a parking space by constantly monitoring your surroundings and informing you of oncoming cars, pedestrians, and cyclists. In the instrument cluster, there's a digital screen that can be customized to show information that's most relevant to you, and there is a sunroof for when you want to enjoy the cooler months. From a design standpoint, the Mazda CX-30 is a very good-looking car, even though it does look very similar to the Mazda 3 hatchback that it is based on. The biggest differentiator between the two is this plastic cladding along the fenders and door panels that gives the CX-30 its SUV appeal. At the back, there's a neat spoiler that's integrated well into the overall design, the brand's signature tail lamps, and chrome exhausts on either side of the bumper. Boot space measures in at 430 liters. But if you do need more, you can always fold down the 60-40 split folding rear seat and you have a much bigger 1,406 liters of storage, which is a lot more than what the hatchback version has to offer. The Mazda CX-30. It's one of those cars that you're either going to love or hate. There really is no middle ground, and that's absolutely okay because, like me, there's still many people questioning whether it needs to exist in the first place. However, it does exist, and so I will say that at 99,900 dirhams, it is a bargain. Why? Because its true competitors aren't the Hondas, Kias and Toyotas of the world, but instead the Audis, the BMWs and the Volvos, because that's how good it really is. Thanks for watching.